the most important political development or constitutional development as well, viewers. The Supreme Court today, after 7 years, invalidated electoral bonds and termed them unconstitutional. The top court of the country has now directed the SBI to cease issuing electoral bonds with immediate effect and submit data of donors to the ECI, who will then publish the details furnished by SBI on their official website. Take a look at this report.
A 7-year-old election funding system scrapped. The Supreme Court has ruled electoral bonds to be unconstitutional.
The electoral bond scheme and the impugned provisions, to the extent that they infringe upon the right to information of the voter by anonymizing contributions through electoral bonds, are violative of Article 19(1)(a). We have applied the proportionality standard to determine if the infringement of the right to information is justified.
Introduced in 2017 and first sold in 2018, the secretive electoral bonds were touted as revolutionary for political donations. Critics argued that the anonymity provided by the scheme led to corruption and an unfair advantage among political parties.
At a primary level, political contributions give a seat at the table to the contributor. That is, it enhances access to legislators. This access also translates into influence over policy making.
Individuals or companies could buy tax-exempt bonds ranging from 1,000 rupees to 1 crore rupees from the SBI, which were then given to chosen political parties and later exchanged for cash. Data showed that between 2018 and March 2022, the majority of these donations went to the BJP. Headed by the CGI, the 5-judge bench directed the State Bank of India to cease issuing electoral bonds, reveal buyer identities, and provide information on bond redemption by political parties. The Supreme Court's decision came in response to petitions challenging the amendments made by the Finance Act 2017 that established the electoral bonds scheme.
Big day for Indian democracy, big day for transparency, big day for the right to information under 19(1)(a), big day for striking out clearly unconstitutional provisions, big day for bringing transparency into the political system, big day for exposing political parties who are participating in scams, biggest scams in the history of this country in the last many years. It's a big day for many, many, many reasons.
The opposition welcomed the decision. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi denounced electoral bonds as a means for kickbacks.
How can 95% of the proceeds of electoral bonds go to one political party, which is the ruling party? Therefore, our question is, in lieu of that money, have you sold, have you given coal mines to those companies? Have you allowed those companies to operate airports? What is the quid pro quo? This is our question.
Conversely, the BJP maintained that the scheme aimed to bring transparency to electoral donations.
चुनाव में सुधार के लिए ये हमारी मोदी जी की सरकार का एक प्रयास नहीं था। आपको याद होगा, वोटर लिस्ट पर आपकी फोटो छपती है, ये भी उस समय हुआ था ना। आज बड़ी संख्या में जो ईवीएम्स लाए गए, उससे बूथ कैप्चरिंग बंद हुई है ना। ये भी उसी प्रामाणिक प्रयास में चुनाव को पारदर्शी बनाने का प्रयास था। अब माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक फैसला किया है, तो हम उनका सम्मान करते हैं।
This ruling arrives nearly 2 months ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. With Nalini Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, let's cut across to my colleague Nalini Sharma, who's going to break it down for us and what would be the implications of it, Nalini. Nalini, as historic it might be coming in after 7 years, it's a complicated order. Will you break it down for us and what it means in terms of political implications in the next 2 months?
Well, Preeti, first and foremost, the biggest takeaway is that by the 13th of March, the Election Commission has been asked to publish all the details of the electoral bonds and the donations that have been received through them to electoral parties on the Election Commission website. Now, this, for the first time, is going to open the Pandora's box of exactly which individual and which corporate entity has donated how much amount of money to which political party, which is essentially going to pave the way to determine as to whether or not, A, there was any quid pro quo between the corporate entities and the government in power. Second, as to whether or not any corporate interests were put above the public interest in the form of these quid pro quo in return for the donations that have been received. Now, ideally, even though electoral bonds are supposed to be anonymous, but the Supreme Court categorically has said that the right to privacy of these donors and the anonymity cannot be held above the right of the public to know, because at the end of the day, in a democracy, it is essential that free and fair elections happen, and the public, which is the ultimate decider of which party comes into power, should have all the information before they step into the voting booth, which also means where the political party that they are going to vote for is getting its funding from, and as to whether or not that funding is impacting any policy that is being brought by the government, especially if it's a corporate policy that might impact corporate interests of several individuals or corporate entities.
All right, Nalini, appreciate you joining us for that quick breakdown. I want to also now cut across to Nitish Sippy, founding editor, the Reporters Collective. He'd carried out a series of investigations on electoral bonds. And on that note, Mr. Sippy, it's come full circle, 7 years. Is there some validation of your work?
I think more than gratification, there's a sense of relief. It's a victory for democracy, for people who fought for transparency and proper electoral processes. It's also a small victory, I would think, for good investigative journalism. It shows to citizens that good, rigorous journalism can bring good changes for the Indian democracy. I would think the country should be thankful to transparency activists such as Commodore Lokesh Batra, organizations such as ADR, which worked for many years in the court and outside to get information, to present it to courts in the right manner. There is some happiness that we at the Reporters Collective played a role in revealing these documents to citizens, which led to an outcry, and that got used as evidences in the courts to get the order that we have got today.